guys, welcome back. Before diving into the third game, I have a guest with me, Ismael. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
We had an interview already, and if people don't remember about it, you've been working with Rogue for a few months now as a performance coach.
That's right.
Last time we talked was during troubled times, if I may say. So tell me about the process of getting things back together and reaching this state you have.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we haven't changed much from what we started doing at the beginning, like kind of from pre-season. So we basically just established some routines, some specific environment. So we haven't changed much since then.
All right. Well, was there anything challenging about maintaining this state?
Well, basically, I think the most challenging part was just to keep those routines, to keep the mindset. When we were losing, when we realized, oh, we might not make it to playoffs. So, of course, that's the most challenging part, to keep everyone together, basically. Any
specifics you can give me about this routine you mentioned?
Well, it's basically just trying to transfer Scream's practice to stage with the specific routines, like kind of breathing, like kind of another type of balancing routines for the body, for physiologically, basically. And at the same time, just an environment where everyone can communicate, like kind of something like bringing psychological psychological well-being, basically, for the players to communicate and to have a better relationship that it's transferring to the game.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
Now, you just lost for the first time in 5 games. So tell me about the process to keep this good mindset and this fearless mindset together.
Well, I think basically the same idea. We just keep doing exactly the same. I think the guys have a really good mindset in terms of just keep kind of that aggressiveness and that kind of, at the same time, kind of very confident, regardless of what team we're playing against, or regardless if we just have lost the previous game. So we're just very focused on what's next.
Well, I guess they really don't fear anything, do they?
Yeah, no, they're really, really eager to win. They're really eager to just show how good they are, which they are really good.
Well, that's amazing. Let's see if you guys can turn it around in game 3. Now back to you, Sjokz, for picks and bans.
Thank you very much, Laure. Always nice to hear from Ismael. And also, performance coaching is very vital to a team. And I think Rogue needed a bit of that, because indeed, they lost the previous game. And frankly, they got pretty much outplayed. We're about to hit on game 3, so I wanted to look at some trends. And I think a big difference in game 2 was how active Trick was and how effective he was.
Honestly, the series has just been better jungle wins, straight up. And in this game too, it was Trick on the Xin Zhao in particular. And he set up the game very intelligently, splitting the map early on, playing to his strengths because he had a much stronger jungle matchup. With that draft, he was able to really play through that early game, dominate the top side of the map early on, and then shift that focus down towards the bottom lane to set up a really nice dive.
I mean, that's the thing we talked about after game 1. We actually also heard from Dylan Falco when he got interviewed when the game 2 started. We needed early game advantage in the jungle. Schalke will not get early leads in their lanes without Trick specifically. Bot lane as well was then kind of the second lane we looked at as saying, I mean, this is where you have your advantage. You are playing with Upset and IgNar against VandeR and Woolite. You must be able to do something here. They go for early Lucian. They actually, this time around, with Trick coming down, managed to get early kills. And that was kind of what started the snowball. And the Zac pick on the other side, really not the answer if you are against Trick and you need to stop Trick from getting control in the early game.
Especially if we compare game 1 and 2, we just saw it there. Trick so early in the early game, and in game 1 rather, it was all about inspired. But Zac is not really a pick on which he can do what he wants to do.
Yes. Yeah, and I think inspired also, if we look at the regular season, really struggled a lot of the time on level 6 junglers. The Skarner pick was something he went for in the past that he wasn't super successful in. Don't think he ever found a win on that champion. I think the Zac as well, if he's not able to influence the game early on, he's not going to be able to do anything. Now, that being said, he did have options in this game, playing topside around a Rumble who's vulnerable when he pushes up. As a level 5-6 Zac, definitely possible. We didn't see that look from him, and he just got set way too far behind.
And I think that is one reason for picking it. The other one probably is they looked at their support this time and said, it's a Braum, it's not like a Rakan. They've been playing quite a lot. We need some sort of engage here to feel comfortable. So we go for Zac. There were obviously better choices, and they're not going to do that again.
No, and it went very well for Trick, and we're going to take a look at some of the kills he got early with that Xin Zhao and the pressure he put on the lanes. Because when you look at Schalke 04, Trick is always very active in the early game, but it doesn't necessarily net them as much of a gold advantage. But in this case, they did everything right afterwards as well.
Yes, because obviously he managed to get his lanes going, especially the bot lane. This is what Ender talked about just before. Trick was focusing topside initially to stop Inspired from doing anything early against Odoamne. You know, Aatrox and Zac could get onto a low mobility to champ like him. Then he swaps bot side when they're strong enough to dive. This is a beautiful dive from them. IgNar with Aftershock can just tank the turret long enough for his team to actually kill them. And I think Trick did everything he should do early. Block gank topside, go bot lane, get your bot lane rolling, and then he actually went back up towards, you know, mid and top to make sure no one could do anything.
And the game just ended up turning into a highlight reel for him, right? He gets 5 kills very early on into the match, and then Schalke, with this lead, can sort of force their way out around the map wherever they want to. In this in particular, you have Odoamne rotating over first, getting a beautiful equalizer to set up for this double kill dive underneath the tower. So it was just Schalke building up that early lead and then using it to win out in the team fights, which we know they're so strong in.
Right, and I think we've seen now a couple of games where Finn, he gets the Aatrox. There's a lot of questions after when Rogue win, like why do you give him this champion? He's able to at least go even in lane, and then he has a lot of impact in mid to late game in these team fights. I think what Schalke did here was an interesting choice. Instead of saying let's remove the Aatrox or let's try and destroy him early game, they're like, no, let's pick something that can actually out team fight him, basically. So once we get out laning phase, Rumble can then do more than the Aatrox.
And we're gonna see if Schalke goes for a similar plan in this one. Into picks and bans for game 3. It is 1-on-1 squared all. You said already, better jungler wins. So are we gonna see a similar focus on the jungle takeaways from the side of Schalke?
On the jungle takeaways from Schalke, I say yes. Jungle picks from Rogue, I think very, very different. Another champion I'm going to be looking at in particular here is the Rumble that you mentioned, Deficio, because in game 1, that was a ban from Rogue. Game 2, they swapped that out for a Kennen. I think the Rumble is definitely a more influential pick for Schalke. When we talk about all these pushing lanes that Schalke were able to do to take over the early game.
So that will be the last ban from Rogue, because they're going with Xayah, GP again. We're not expecting that to change on blue side. Now they have to make a choice, Rumble or Kennen. Or maybe they ban Sylas, first pick the Aatrox again, and try that way to get more advantage from the early picks. But it is going to be back to game 1.
Yeah, the Rumble is banned out. We're going to see what the final ban is from Schalke 04. What I have found interesting about Rogue is that even when you have those strong picks like the Olaf or Inspired, they usually don't go for it, even if it's available in the first rotations. So it seems that they do want to prioritize this Aatrox or this top lane pick.
I mean, Aatrox is just the standard choice here. Again, we expect it to be top lane. It's not very strong mid anymore. But yeah, the Olaf is actually interesting because he had 2 good games on it. Yeah. He just became a perma-ban for like 3-4 weeks.
He won last week again on it.
Right, he did in the very end when he picked the second phase. So I'm not expecting early Olaf to come in unless they feel they need it to gain advantage early in the jungle matchup, which is the key when you play against Trick.
3 games in a row. The Lucian for upset, going for comfort. He clearly feels good on this champion, and the Akali is locked in.
Yeah, and that's going to mean the Corki response here for Larssen. This has been exactly what they've done every single game. Rogue, they pick the Aatrox, then they answer the mid lane pick. This game should be the Corki up against the Akali, and then can round out with the Kai'Sa.
Well, Sylas also opened, just like in game 1, so they can do Aatrox, Corki, Sylas.
And go for the same plan.
Which they did against the Akali, and the main reason the Corki is so effective for them against Akali is they don't have to force a lot of skirmishes around mid lane to play this game well. Larssen just farms and pushes, and then he goes to other lanes.
And remember what we said after game 1. Rogue stomped
this is really
game
risky.
1 with this composition, with the Aatrox in the top lane, the Corki to offset the Akali, and the Sylas for Inspired, which he's so good on.
I wonder if we get early jungle pick now from Trick to try and get advantage there, or if they just go for engaged support like before. They go back to the Sejuani actually. So
and this is exactly
basically
the same
game 1
so far.
Where Schalke did have the opportunities. I felt like they actually had some good moments, but they kind of misplayed a lot of the fights. So they're trying to say we can actually play the fights better now.
So are they going to change it up, or do you guys indeed think, okay, no, this was a fine draft of them out of game 1, they just misplayed?
Well, I think it was an okay draft, right? A lot of the misplays came down to the early level jungle pathing that set Trick behind, and then some over-forced plays, whether it's him or IgNar going too hard around that bottom lane. I think if they can take some of those plays back, things are going to look much better for them. What I'm most interested in is the Sona and Rakan ban now from Schalke, anticipating maybe that Woolite wanted to go back to that Sona Taric or Sona Tahm Kench that he was so good on in the regular split.
Absolutely. The Rakan was also what Rogue won with in this composition in game 1, and you don't want to see a Yuumi Garen or Sona Taric from the side of VandeR and Woolite.
So VandeR, on his side, I mean, there's things like Nautilus, obviously the Alistar that IgNar played in the last game is still available. Tahm Kench is here as a choice as well.
Yeah, I think Alistar Kai'Sa is a really good 2v2 lane that they could be trying to pick up for themselves right here, especially if, well, there you go, Schalke gonna steal that one away. So personally, I would like to see Kai'Sa, if Woolite wants to go back to this champion, it's gonna be Kai'Sa plus Nautilus for me. I am not a big fan of the Braum alongside that pick against, especially against so many melee champs.
Morgana was gonna be an option to pick.
Draven.
It's actually funny because, Sjokz, you and I were talking about Draven specifically against Schalke. They normally want to ban it against Draven teams.
Yep.
Woolite now gets to show the Draven. If this is a successful game, then Schalke might consider banning it next game.
Yeah, and Draven is actually super sick against Alistar. You immediately knock him out of that headbutt so he can't get the pulverize down on you. If he is able to close the gap, the Morgana is there as well. So this is going to be a game about the bottom lanes attacking one another. Finally, it is a rogue team with 2v2 firepower to contest upset Nick.
And what about the top lane matchup now? The Aatrox versus the Kennen from Odoamne.
I mean, Odoamne should be very, very good in this specific matchup, but I don't think he can snowball out of control. I think Aatrox, even when slightly behind, is still extremely valuable. Finn can save his TP and use it for bot lane, because when you pick Draven Morgana against, again, in this case, Lucian Alistar, like, the focus is around that bot lane. So Finn, save your TP, you'd be ready to impact that lane. Same thing for Odoamne, though. I actually want to see multiple people invest time bot lane, because if Draven falls behind, he's useless.
And such an interesting draft once again, and I love that Rogue is keeping us on our toes because Woolite hasn't played this Draven yet, but he is dead set on showing everyone that he can put up a fight versus IgNar and upset in that bottom lane. The coaches will say shake hands, pre-game, post-draft predictions. Who's gonna win this and why?
I really like a lot of the things that Rogue got their hands on in this game. Bot lane is gonna be super crucial. If Woolite and VandeR can get ahead, it's them.
Let's see who takes it to match point. Rogue or Schalke 04. The team's already on the rift, so let's leave it to our casters.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. Game 3 of this best of 5.
If Rogue had a good bot lane, I would say they
Your
hard
mic is
won.
still open.
I agree, Deficio. If Rogue get a good bot lane, if they get ahead early on, I'd say they hard won this game. Do you guys agree? Hey.
Hey, Sjokz. Hey, Deficio. Great to hear you. Great draft. Really loved your points. We completely agree with you, actually. We think that the investment should be all about the bot lane, right? And Frosk and I were talking a lot about it, and how we think it's going to be interesting. Because what kind of a gauntlet does that throw down when Woolite is like, I'm going to lock in the Draven?
Especially since he has never played Draven in LEC history. 73 games, never before has he played Draven.
Woolite has played it, though. Checked in on a solo queue. So I agree, not on the professional stage, but it's not to say that Woolite cannot play the champion. Now, here's the thing. Anytime there's a Draven player, just to echo what Deficio said, Upset bans it. When they face Origin, they ban Draven. When they face Vitality, they ban Draven. He hates playing against this champion. So if Woolite is successful here, it automatically throws a massive wrench in Schalke's draft phase because chances are they'll probably have to pay respect to it.
Small deviation as well. Notice that Finn is running the Electrocute rather than the Conqueror. Taking that extra bit of burst against squishy champions like the Kennen does help if Inspired decides to look for a gank up towards the top side that, honestly, once again, we're not really expecting. We're looking much more towards the bot, but it does help you against squishier targets with the likes of a Lucian, Akali, and Kennen as well. So I wanted to throw that one out there. Meanwhile, in terms of the early game, looks like nothing too crazy is going to happen. Inspired going to go for a very safe jungle pathing, start red, do a full bot side clear, and we can see that the same thing is happening from Trick up towards the top side with a solo start on red.
I do want to talk about the adjustment in terms of warding, and it's actually been this ward here placed by Schalke the last time this matchup happened. It was Inspired that did a cross-map play and walked over into Trick's blue buff and denied him 3 quadrants of the jungle. This time around, Schalke have learned from their mistakes. They have warded Trick's jungle, and hopefully we'll be able to have a much better start the last time Sylas versus Sejuani was played in Game 1.
They've also chucked a ward down towards that bottom lane to make sure that Inspired couldn't look for something very cheeky like a level 2 gank, try and snowball that Draven even quicker than you'd like. And I think a lot of this game has to be decided, as the analyst desk said, by the junglers. Trick on his Sejuani has won 11 games, only lost 2 on them, and Inspired here bringing out the Sylas that was so powerful in Game 1.
Remember that 11-2 record, it does say LEC all time, so that means it likely includes the game that he lost today. Definitely showing his proficiency on the champion and why it's often taken away from him. But we'll see what early game impact he's able to have. Ganking a Morgana Morgana lane can be very difficult, especially when a Draven is paired up with it. We do see the invade still coming out from Inspired. He does not have prio bot, but he does have a mid laner that can come to assist.
A little bit of invade later on that invade. We'll clear out one ward. There is a second, of course, spotting map. That's about to time out. And you can see Larssen and Abbedagge just trading in the mid lane. Both of them trying to vie over priority, see who can join their jungler quicker.
Ooh, remember, Inspired, level 3 does have the execute, will be able to smite that one away. Level 3 to level 2 as well. So that smite doing that extra bit of damage, helping him secure that one.
Yeah, and credit to Inspired's laners, Woolite and VandeR, as well as Larssen, because ward be damned, it didn't matter that Schalke were able to catch that one out and that he got there as Trick was pulling it. He's going to get it anyway.
So, as we were just talking about the junglers, we once again see how Inspired is able to get a very early advantage up against Trick. And while this doesn't seem like much, it actually affects a lot of things, because now, once again, Inspired is going to be able to get the bot river Scuttle Crab. He's then going to be able to move up towards the top river and secure that one as well, giving him this big experience and gold advantage against his lane counterpart. Interestingly, he's choosing to go back to base, but even then, I think that Trick will be a little too afraid to actually contest that one.
Yeah, seeing how much he could have denied from Trick there, it means that he might be late for this, and we'll see. Trick doesn't spot him. He may try to go for this contest, and that means as Trick is on it, if he enters this blue buff, Inspired will show up just in time.
Yeah, but I do actually quite like this from Trick. You know, I thought that he would not look to run the risk, but because his top laner is pushing and he is able to get vision, he makes the assumption that Trick has, Inspired rather, has actually gone back to base. So just good forethought from Trick. He doesn't end up losing both scuttles. He's able to get a little bit of golden experience back in his pocket.
Finn was able to come across and help protect Inspired's blue, so it will be a 3 buff here from Rogue and from Inspired, and we'll see how Inspired's able to use that slight level advantage he'll have to affect the map as this game develops.
I mean, a level advantage, again, in Sylas versus Sejuani is so important if you can get access to that ultimate before she does and start forcing off of objectives.
Especially if you're trying to play around a lane that snowballs, steal away the Sejuani ult, go down towards the bottom lane, see if you can lock up Upset and IgNar. And at the moment, there is a sizable lead for Woolite in this lane. There's a wave pushing in. That's 7, 8 minions or so. And if Upset gets all of them, he'll still be behind about 5 or 6.
Now, given that a Draven is in the game, we as the casters will keep you updated, fans at home, on how the Draven stacks are doing. Right now, he's sitting at 125, so he has quite a few. We did showing support for his former team, Go Rogue.
Do you want to give credit to VandeR right there? Very fast fingers on the Black Shield, excuse me, as IgNar went in for that one.
So, to the fans at home, we talked a lot and we set up a lot of expectations on the analyst desk and here on the caster desk about how there were going to be plays around bot side. We're 5 minutes in and you've seen no action. Now, you might be wondering, hey,
what gives?
Where's this action that you promised us, right?
Yeah, it's Vedius.
And we just want to let you know that it's not going to happen this early on. There's going to be just a lot of trading of farm and pressure in the early game. It's not until these level 6s come through, and in particular for Rogue, when that package comes through, that things will really start to liven up. And one of the other big things you need to keep an eye on are things like teleports. You heard Deficio talk about how he actually wanted to see Finn save his teleport so that it can be used towards the bot side of the map. And you'll notice that he has in fact just used it top lane. What this means is that because Odo still has his TP, he has not gone back to base yet. He could choose to hold it and save it so that they can set up a flank play in the bot side of the map and potentially look to shut this Draven down. It's all about what Odoamne wants to do that will dictate whether we see more early game influence from the top lane.
And there actually should be an opportunity for that to happen for Schalke because, again, Inspired has just been cruising through this jungle. He should get to level 6 before Trick does. They're both level 5. And I want to see Inspired start to really muscle out the bottom side river, especially because it's something like a Mountain Drake, while Woolite and VandeR have so much power.
Importantly, Odoamne did burn his teleport up towards the top lane there, so we won't see that teleport advantage on the side of Schalke. Woolite has held on to his, whereas Upset burnt his to get back into the lane, so perhaps that will have an impact. What I expect is a trade happens and then Woolite has to back and teleport back into the lane, but we will see if that has an impact. These small things can have a big change in a game.
I think the difference is when we eventually start to see skirmishes over this bottom river or even just full-blown team fights, it's really important who gets the rotation first. If you're a Rogue fan, it's Woolite and VandeR pairing up with Inspired. They're going to bring a lot of the early game damage, whereas Larssen's on the likes of a Corki, which comparatively to an Akali at this point of the game, Akali's going to be doing a lot more in skirmishes and team fights. So if you're a Schalke fan, you want it to be about Akali.
Trick going in the top lane as the slicing Maelstrom comes down. Finn trying to escape, lands the Infernal Chains, but the chase is on. Trick lands the Glacial Prism, and first blood goes to Schalke.
So Schalke attacked the top lane. This is not something you often see from Trick. He very rarely likes to play around Odoamne, but an opportunity presented itself. Notice how much vision they actually have on the top side of the river right now. This entire river is all warded in favor of Schalke, and which meant that it was very easy for him to get into an avenue of attack, find that successful gank, and draw first blood.
What it does mean for Rogue is they can play around this bottom lane. You can see how far Woolite and VandeR are pushed up there, trying to gain control over this bot side river.
But you also see the immediate response from Trick to base directly after that gank top lane and sprint down towards his bottom lane, ignoring just walking straight to his buffs, which it seems like IgNar is giving him the go-ahead to say, no one's coming to dive us. I think we're okay to pick up this wave. You can go back to your jungle, but Trick very aware that while he expended his time topside, Rogue could try to take advantage bot side.
But looks like for now, Rogue chose not to do that. You already talked a little bit, Frosk, about an early potential Drake, and I kind of expected Rogue to try and force it there, but instead they decided not to, which does surprise me a little bit. But in any case, that's not going to be the case. In any case, that's not going to be the case. Regardless,
it wasn't the case in any case. So.
Woolite now hitting level 6 alongside VandeR, and a lot of level 6s are coming through. Teleport's still on cooldown for everyone, but the most important thing is that these ultimates are primed and ready, and the package is now up for Larssen. We talked about how this would be the time in the game where action starts happening, so fans at home, if action doesn't start happening now, then it's not our fault, it's theirs.
I mean, Draven wants the Colosseum.
I mean, you say that, Vedius, you say it to fans at home. I'm going to start blaming you if action doesn't.
I mean, all right. 250 stacks now on the Draven for fans wandering at home. He's slowly building those up more and more.
You see Woolite taking the bad side of an axe straight into his spine there.
Those chunks actually mean a lot because neither AD carry is playing with the TP, so losing that much health and being forced to back means that you automatically sacrifice the dragon. You can't afford to take that type of poke damage.
As promised.
As promised, Larssen coming in with the package, but all of Schalke back away, and there's no action yet today. IgNar standing near the tower, but the rest of Rogue come across, and this should just be a free plate for Woolite and VandeR. With that demolish, should be pretty easy for them to take.
It's just more gold being funneled into the Draven, though, so Rogue is still very happy with this. At this point in the game, when 3 plates are taken, sometimes teams would consider swapping, but because the Drake has not been taken yet, I feel like Woolite and VandeR will actually continue with an extended laning phase down towards the bot side of the map in 2v2. It could be an opportunity for Schalke to look to swap and do something very similar to what Rogue did last game. Ooh, or instead they can just fight.
Looking for the fight, IgNar going in, Woolite landing some axes into upset, and IgNar will take the Whirling Death on its return. He flashes away, Inspired's here, and maybe Trick looking for this, could face check straight in. Abbedagge on his way down, Schalke looking for the fight, but Trick is forced away by Inspired.
That's actually, frankly, a big mistake by Schalke. What was happening in the mid lane is that Abbedagge and Trick were getting priority, and they were trying to escort Akali down towards this bottom lane. IgNar should not have looked for that engage and lost so much of his health, as well as his key ultimate, because now there's no threat to stop Rogue from pushing forward.
On Trick. He's ignited. It's not going to be enough damage to take him out, but he is forced away.
Well, like, he didn't have the ultimate available because he used it in the last exchange, but I agree with you there, Frost. Schalke, they were setting up for a potential play bot, and then they pulled the trigger a little too early. This is going to give Woolite and VandeR free access onto the tower, and they may be even able to secure it. At the very least, I'd love to see them move to the mountain Drake.
Because again, in the tug of war of who's going to get control of this bottom river, for Inspired and Rogue, it's teaming up with the Draven, and for Schalke, it's teaming up with the Akali and then moving into this bottom river. Schalke were trying to do that, didn't get their Akali in time, and now they've lost so many vital cooldowns.
You can see Bloodthirster already complete on Woolite now. He's going to be able to do a huge amount of damage in that bottom lane. Sheen, Phage, and the Hex Drinker on Larssen, so they are scaling up towards some of these power points. Odoamne has a sizable lead in the top lane with about a 20 CS farm lead. And with the Proto Belt out already on Odo, that next fight could be devastating if he can land a big slicing Maelstrom around one of these objectives.
So I was really curious what Upset was going to do with his back. I think because he still has his teleport, or it's just about to come off of cooldown, he feels confident to go back towards the bottom, continue to try to leverage control over the bottom side of the map, rather than just walking towards the top side, sacking the Mountain Drake and saying, instead we'll try to change for Herald.
I also think that Odoamne is just doing extremely well in terms of this 1v1 top. By going for the Kleptomancy, he's gotten himself a pretty big gold lead, as the observers highlighted for us just a little bit ago. And so the longer he stays in this lane, the more gold that's being funneled into him. And because he's going for the AP Kennen route, it means that Schalke will actually have a very potent mid-game teamfighting comp where they have a lot of engage, they should have a lot of damage just off a single item. So I think that them going for this extended laning phase can also mutually benefit them, as long as Draven doesn't get any kills, because that is the biggest factor. If he secures himself a kill and is able to proc the 360 stacks that he is now sitting on, this mid game will very quickly become Rogue favored.
Yeah, it's a super cool pivot from Schalke here. Now, if Trick is discovered on this Rift Herald, that could be dangerous if Woolite shows up to that fight, because he is, like you're saying, a very big deal right now. But as long as Abba can keep Larssen interested...
Ooh, Larssen. Yeah, he's lost interest. Immediately goes up towards the top river. Finn will likely push out this wave and then come to help out his mid laner.
Ooh, this is dangerous to Trick. He doesn't have the smite.
We're committing to it.
In. That's Kennen joining the fight. Finn
trying to reset it.
Side as well, but that's just the teleport burnt. Patience still very high on this Rift Herald and should be an easy enough take for Schalke. Rogue did notice, but Schalke will get it in the end. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Inspired was going for a fight. IgNar able to get away from it, and Rogue will take first tower of the game.
So typically, teams would look to trade a Drake for this type of objective, but because of how low the bot tower was, Rogue feel confident to make this play. Schalke, fortunately, do have the Rift Herald for themselves and can look to make the same trade up towards the top side. Without jungler assistance, there's little that Finn can do to stop it, which means that Schalke staying still very even with Rogue in terms of the early game.
I feel like Finn disagrees with you right now, because he's trying to clear out that Rift Herald, but the chase is on. Flash away from the Glacial Prism, but the Slicing Maelstrom will connect. Finn goes down almost. In the end, he will fall. Schalke get their second kill. Dragon goes down on the other side.
Yeah, I feel like Finn was just playing with fire right there. That said, Rogue still control the bottom side of the map, now setting up a possible trap here. IgNar.
IgNar was smart enough to put a ward in the bush.
So here's the thing, though. We're in a situation that we don't normally see with Schalke, where resources are being put into Odo.
Yeah.
He's now got all of those plates from that tower, and as Vedius talked about, this AP Kennen, who can do so much damage in the mid game, is now just having that much more power put into his back pocket. So if Schalke can unlock this guy, can utilize him in team fights, then that sacrifice feels fine. But if they don't get Odo teamed up, then Upset's probably going to stand there like, guys, I'm not laning against Draven again. Please gank my lane.
Package going to be used mid. But yeah, as you were saying, Odoamne is now level 11. He doesn't have the flash available, but with the Oblivion Orb, with the Proto Belt, this Kennen is really scary. And in a full 5v5, Rogue have to be cautious of how much damage is available, because even though the Draven has a lead, he's not so terrifying that he can single-handedly carry a fight. But again, it all comes back down to this kill. They really, really, really want Woolite to pick up that execution. They want that money to roll in. He's now at 430 stacks. That is a big payout if he's able to secure it.
Which is why I actually really like Woolite respecting and going second item into the Hex Drinker, because when Odo is so big on this this Kennen, you're also facing Akali. It also then allows him to survive a fight if that burst damage comes in, and actually try to find that kill to springboard him into his second BF item.
Because if he dies before he gets that kill, he loses so many of those stacks. Woolite here trying to trade onto Abbedagge as he steps forward. VandeR in the bush, but Trick, IgNar, and Upset are on their way. VandeR misses the binding. Abbedagge is going to land the microstun, and now IgNar has locked up VandeR underneath the tower. Rogue were looking for the fight. They wanted that kill. They even burned the double TP to try and make it happen.
Very surprised that Rogue tried to force that underneath the Schalke tower, knowing that they were at a numbers disadvantage. Yes, they'll likely secure a tower off the back of this, so perhaps it ends up being worth overall, but Odoamne is just doing the same thing in the bot side of the map. Now, of course, he is AP. He's not going to be able to take this as quickly, but Rogue don't push any further. They'll just look for a base. And okay, so ultimately you can say that it was pretty worth for Rogue, but you invest 2 teleports, you end up losing a member, and while you will get back out onto the map sooner, I feel like that Schalke still feel pretty comfortable with how that overall played out.
I think one of the only advantages that Rogue had to make a play like that is that they were fighting away from the Kennen. Odo doesn't have TP.
That's true.
And he is the big problem for Rogue if they look into a team fight here. So you can now see Schalke, hey, we should probably just fight with the guy that's strong.
Yep. No, I completely agree with you. His TP is unavailable, as you mentioned. They path towards bot because they could look for a potential dive. Not going to overcommit to it, though, because he was spotted out.
I mean, we talk about triangle vision a lot, but that's a bit overkill.
Literally a triangle.
Use 1 ward when 4 wards will do trick.
Yeah, it's called warding effectively. We'll call it that. Now let's have a look at this play. So I kind of had question mark pings going on through my head when I saw VandeR initiate on this. You can understand that he's trying to lock the Akali down, but look at how quickly he dies without many resources being put into the Morgana. Very squishy champion, only level 7, gets executed very quickly, but of course Schalke had to invest so much into finding that kill that they then didn't have the ability to defend that top tier tower, especially against 5 members of Rogue.
And we're now getting into the point of the game where Schalke tend to thrive. Mid-game teamfights around objectives has been their bread and butter throughout the course of the split, and they have a composition to make it work so well this time once again. With Odo being fed on this Kennen, with Abbedagge being big on the Akali as well, you have to think if we get into full 5v5s, Schalke should be coming out on top.
And I know we just made fun of IgNar's triangle vision that he literally placed, but in a minute, that dragon, which is going to be a mount, will spawn. Odo will have access to his TP. So a lot of the vision and the investment that IgNar has put down in Rogue's red side jungle could actually be the difference maker in how Schalke will set up for a potential team fight that I think you agree and I agree they're probably going to take.
Yeah, I think Schalke are really strong right now. I'm keeping my eyes on the positioning of Odo. The problem that Schalke have right now is that, again, we kind of talk about these outer towers. Notice in the bot lane, this one is still up. This naturally makes it a little bit harder to get inside the enemy jungle and set up proper vision. But even saying that, they have been able to get some deep wards in. It does mean that they can keep an eye on what the enemy is up to, but to set up a potential flank around the dragon becomes a little bit harder and is something that Schalke will have to struggle with. Again, also on top of that, it's way easier for Finn to keep this wave pushed out because, of course, the wave always bounces into that tower as well.
An issue for Rogue is, though, that Larssen doesn't have his teleport. In fact, there are no TPs on the side of Rogue, and Abbedagge is pushing in top lane. If the fight starts around this Mountain Dragon, Abbedagge can be there. Larssen has to answer the wave, otherwise you start losing towers, and it makes it very difficult for Rogue, because in the end, they're probably going to be fighting a 4v5 if they go for the fight.
I think that fight's just about to happen.
Nope, never mind.
You guys promised me.
Well, we promised you action and you got the action. To be fair, we did live up to that promise. The problem is what we didn't promise was continuous fighting all the time. And for Schalke, what they're trying to avoid is that against the Draven, because if he gets 1 kill, he is now currently sitting at 550 stacks. So you don't, again, want to give that gold away. Now, what Rogue is doing here is they're trading mid-priority for the Drake. They think this is fine if they can secure that mid-tower. Problem is, Schalke's going for the fight.
Woolite caught out, and here comes Odo slicing through Rogue like butter. Inspired by down towards the bottom side, and Woolite is still alive. Larssen's going to open up with those long-range missiles, and if Woolite can get closer, he might be able to get that kill, get those adoration stacks flowing. For now, Schalke will back away with the dragon, with the kill, but not with many health bars.
I mean, ultimately, the longer this play extends, the more that it can turn in favor for Rogue, unless Abba can get something done here, and Schalke can trim this minion wave.
Abba trying to do what he can with the Twilight Shroud. Woolite almost knocks him out. Abba doesn't have the
I like this TP.
Here comes the TP. Odo, no flash, no ult. No way into the fight, but he can poke from range. Inspired, stunned up, Upset jumping forward, and Inspired is down. Hex Flash from IgNar will just rejoin him with his team, and Woolite is not able to find that elusive kill.
And frankly, that kind of feels like the 1-2 punch that Schalke really needed to put Rogue toward their needs. The fact that they got access to the dragon, that they forced them off the mid lane, and that Rogue, yes, they got a single tower, but they weren't able to push all the way through for the second.
I'm also a little disappointed in how Woolite played the fight because, of course, he's sitting there trying to siege onto the tower. He gets the black shield, but notice how he spends the majority of this fight running away. Now, obviously, like, he needs to survive, right? But I feel like he could be hitting Odoamne right now. He could be hitting the people that are chasing after him. Instead, his focus is just on surviving. But if he gets a big hit onto one of these squishy members, then that could have been the gold income that they needed in order to start the Draven snowball. But instead, they utilize the time that they have to siege down mid. Again, Schalke don't have that many resources, so it's actually a very safe play for Rogue until they realize that the flanking TP is available from Odoamne and they find themselves another kill.
And after a devastating game 1, we're now starting to see Schalke consistently show their true colors, this potential that we talk about so often. You can see how much making Worlds and making Athens matters to them. And for Rogue, they need to start finding some of these fights, otherwise they will be out of Worlds contention.
The only thing that I want for Rogue right now is to get Woolite a kill. Cash in on those stacks. It makes such a difference if Draven is unlocked to grab that Infinity Edge right now, because he's just in between item breakpoints. And when a Draven is able to hit you with that crit from a single axe, he doesn't need to follow up and do multiple pieces of damage. It's just the kind of one-hit drive-by. So get him the gold.
Here comes IgNar, flashes forward, looking for the fight. Glacial Prism gonna land as well, and it's all on Woolite. Watch that AD carry. Draven trying to do it all here, and he will get it! Shut down! That's 2 for Rogue, and Trick realizes he's not in the best place. He flashes away, and now here comes Woolite on the chase. Abbedagge still has the flank position. IgNar as well from the top could come down, and Woolite can't go any further. Trick will get away.
And not only did he finally cash in, he got a massive shutdown there. That could be the difference for Rogue.
1,700 gold went into the back pocket of Woolite after securing that kill. He is now sitting at 10,000 gold. He has enough money, I believe, to just straight buy the Infinity Edge. There it is in his inventory. This is what Schalke were afraid of, but this is exactly what Rogue wanted. The Draven is now primed and ready to fight. Rogue now look a lot more scary.
And reminder, it only takes a single axe on one of these squishy opponents. You can see Draven half-health opponents. And when you're playing this game of kind of setting up around vision, peeking your head, you know that Schalke are going to come for the team fight. The longer that Rogue can get multiple rotations of that axe, that auto-attack out, the better they're going to feel in these fights. He almost acts as a poke champion in that sense.
I also love the way in which Inspired stole Odoamne's ultimate away. And of course, because he's building full AP himself, he's working towards that Zhonya's Hourglass. He can provide that same level of damage and utility that Odoamne provides, which is going to be extremely valuable later on. So let's have a look at this engage from Schalke. You can see great knockup onto Morgana, but the Draven is being left untouched. Very quick double stopwatch comes out from both frontliners, which means that Woolite is free to sit on the back line and land these last hits. He gets the big payout. Upset is a little too close to comfort and gets shut down by the Rogue squad as well. And Abbedagge was too far away to offer any assistance in the fight.
Rogue showing just how well they can fight back from a disadvantageous situation. Do want to just tell everyone at home, this series is now officially longer than the Rogue Splice series, so they're not going to be able to dominate the way they did there, but they are truly fighting back in this game. Actually have a gold lead now, 400, 500 gold ahead at the 24-minute mark.
So now I want to start talking about execution of team fights and what it looks like for both teams. We talked about Rogue and their poke potential. When you have a Corki, when you have a Draven. Oh no.
Okay. Draven does it all, I guess. That's what happens then. Imagine if you had a Draven and a Pike on the same team. Just like,
great job, production. That was fantastic timing. All right, let's talk about these team fights, Frost.
Okay. It's about the poke. You got the Corki, you got the Draven, single auto attacks as well as some of those rockets, and you can just start chunking them out, which means that Schalke need to strike before the poke is laid down, and it needs to count with their hard engage tools. You're looking at IgNar, you're looking at Trick, you need to find the right targets.
And I think flanking is really important. I want to draw attention to this ward that's sitting just behind everyone right now. You can see it sitting right here. This type of ward is extremely valuable to allow the Kennen flank to come in from the side of Schalke. The teleport is going to be available soon, and notice that the Infernal is up and ready. So I'd like to see from Odoamne is actually him pushing at the top. Oh, top is already pushing, never mind, he can stay with his team. But he could then look to base right now and then set up for that flank.
Odo has the flash. Woolite in the black shield, but he's going to get stunned up, and Upset's here on the chase. Woolite has the flash. Abbedagge sweeps in from the side. And Schalke have found their fight. The Dragon did go over to Rogue, but Schalke found the man they wanted. The prison just doesn't quite connect.
And not only did they manage to kill Woolite, they got his flash, and that's so important because yes, Odo traded his flash for it, but he still has things like the Proto Belt, and Trick still has a long-range ultimate as well as the Sejuani flash coming up and available. That could be huge for the Baron-defining fight.
Really big play here from the side of Schalke. So they don't bother with the flank, they just dive straight onto Woolite. The flash is used, I believe, from Odoamne, which means that that's enough to lock the CC down from Woolite, and Abbedagge here on the flank, utilizing his ultimate to find that execution. Rogue realize they can't continue with this fight, but these are the kind of plays that you need from Schalke. Catching the Draven out of position, looking to shut him down, because with him gone, that is the goal lead for Rogue. And with him out of the equation, the only damage dealer left you have is Larssen. Of course, he's still a player you have to respect. He's still a person that is difficult to deal with. But when you're dealing with a 2-0-1 Akali with a completed Gunblade and Void Staff, like, the damage differential for Schalke is very scary.
And for a series that's been about which jungler gets to the bot lane first, really the character that's defining this game for me has been Odoamne on this Kennen, and just kind of the amount of damage that he's been able to do.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that his Rumble was very impactful in Game 2, and right now on the Kennen, Schalke decided to invest resources into him, a strategy we don't often see because Upset is typically the primary carry of this team. Yes, we see Abbedagge have pop-off games, and in the early game, Trick likes to play around him, but very rarely do we sit there and go, Odoamne was the reason why they won. Odoamne was the primary carry, but now a lot of responsibility falls on his shoulders to find those clutch ults, to find those executions, and by prioritizing the death cap, he's definitely going for much more of a aggressive build path rather than the typical Zhonya.
He's going for the hard carry, and for a guy who's been around for so long, it's actually been a long time since Odoamne was on a podium in Europe. 2015 was the last time he made it even to 3rd place, so I'm sure he's very hungry to get to those semi-finals in Athens.
In China, we call that tipping the hat, when you go for the aggressive death cap. That's milady.
Well, we'll see how that pays off for him, because it is obviously a high-risk, high-reward build. You're diving in, but you're still a Kennen. And you can still be blown up as easily as you blow up other people.
That's the thing, if you don't connect onto Woolite or Larssen, you're in for a world of hurt there. Finn trying to trade onto Odo here as Larssen was coming in from the side, Inspired joining up with his team, and Rogue are trying to open up this bottom tier 2. IgNar and Trick on their way as well, but Larssen can just chip away at that tower. IgNar going in, the Black Shield used, the flank doesn't quite land. The flank is on, and now Woolite is not with the rest of his team. VandeR caught out, the Soul Shackles comes down, Abbedagge going to dodge back, dodge forward, and he will get the kill. He's locked up in place, Finn's going to root him up as well, and here comes the damage from the Whirling Death. Down towards the bottom side, IgNar's trying to fight against Larssen, Inspired, and Woolite, but now Woolite can open up. Look at the axes, the Draven can push forward here, and here goes Trick back in. Odo slices them up. Schalke turning around, but Woolite stands up, and he takes them down, and now IgNar will get him in the end. Schalke take 5, Rogue take 4, and in the end, only IgNar's left alive.
What a team fight between the two teams. I love the turn from Schalke, but it was just not enough to melt through this Draven. The lifesteal was ridiculous. We have all been there. We have all been in that position where the Draven just does not die. But let's have a look at this. You can see Abbedagge comes in with the flank, and as Medic was saying, Draven wasn't with them at the start of this fight. This looks like a great setup for Schalke, but Odoamne's not in a great position to utilize his ultimate. They all flash out of the way from the side of Rogue. They're just trying to get away from Odo, while Finn is dealing with the other carries. Then Rogue goes on the chase. And again, I love this decision from Schalke. Turn and burn. The burst from the 3 is enough, but just look at the lifesteal from Woolite. He is just able to survive through it, and then it is the hero IgNar that comes up clutch at the very end with the use of the Ignite, the Grievous Wounds, cutting that healing in half.
As a support main, I've been in that situation many times. You know, you're the only one that can really carry your team. IgNar being like GG easy at the end of that fight, but still, this game on a knife edge, nothing between the two teams. Rogue have an extra Infernal Drake under their belt, whereas Schalke only have that single mountain, but you have to feel these fights over objectives, these fights over Barons, over Dragons, is how this game is going to be decided.
And I think the lesson learned for Schalke here is that Akali needs to be used to kill Woolite, not used to kill VandeR. And that should be a very easy adjustment. Now, that said, Woolite's flash just about to come off of cooldown. Think of how different that fight is if Draven has access to that summoner.
Yeah, but the same thing can be said for the Kennen in the top lane. That flash is now available for Odoamne. Level 16. That Slicing Maelstrom is now at max rank. This guy has picked up the stopwatch now as well as Rogue. Maybe looking for a fight in mid lane, won't go for it. But Odoamne is a very scary Kennen right now.
And we have talked a lot about Odoamne and Abbedagge because they're the people trying to kill Woolite. You do have to look at upset. 4-2-4 with the Infinity Edge, Essence Reaver, and Rapid Fire Cannon. If he's left alive in some of these fights, he will start shredding through Rogue now.
As much as I agree with you that Upset is outputting damage, I feel like the composition and the nature of where Schalke's power is it's more about Upset, take care of yourself, do what you can, but otherwise this is Odo and Abba just flying into backlines.
Yep.
They've started up. The Baron started here by Schalke. Rogue going to step forward. They'll notice it now, but they don't know about the flank. Abbedagge has the positioning. Odo as well off towards the top side. But Ward comes in from VandeR. Do they know where Odo is? He can come in from that top. He can get the flank off. And this could be the game-defining fight. IgNar going to use the Hex Flash. Doesn't really do too much for him. And now they've seen Odo. And Trick backs away. Look at the damage coming down. You talked about it. It's the poke from Rogue. Unless you hard engage, they will poke you out forever.
That was so good from Rogue, because with the utilization of the vision, one into the blue buff and one on the right-hand side, they realized that Schalke never wanted the Baron at all. They just wanted to fight. And if that flank and collapse had happened, Rogue would have just melted. But now it is Rogue that are going on the offensive. They have started off the Baron. Can they force Schalke into an unfavorable fight?
IgNar's in base. He's trying to get there, and it feels like We're on that nice edge that we talked about, but things will calm down. Everyone will take a deep breath. Let's go back to prepping the map.
I really feel like Rogue aren't a team that can just start a Baron unless they've got some picks, unless they've got some kills, because who on earth is going to tank that Baron up? Woolite can, but then his damage is reduced towards the Baron as well, so it makes taking that objective even harder.
They're also a team that punish whoever is trying to take the Baron because they have access to that pick like the Corki. So Schalke need to make sure that when they do the Baron, that they can 100% secure it or in a position where they can set up a pick.
Here we go. Once again, Schalke started it up. Odo now has the flank. IgNar as well. There's a control ward there. He's down towards the bottom side of this fight, but immediately Rogue back away. The Baron resets just a little bit.
MVP to Rogue's vision. That's now two really critical wards that have spotted out attempted flanks from Schalke in both IgNar and Odo.
Well, you can see that Rogue do have priority in the mid lane. The bases are coming through, but I don't know if it's enough to stop Rogue from securing this first inhibitor tower. And Rogue played the patient game. The pings are coming down. Odoamne does have the TP, but he's not going to use it.
IgNar has a flank position here. Odo still has the flash, but he's a long way away.
Don't face check.
Inhibitor tower goes down. Don't face check, says Vedius. I'm sure a lot of Schalke fans are asking them to walk straight into that lack of vision.
It's because Odo had decided to go for the bottom wave, so you could see that Schalke probably communicating in the comms, trying to figure out what's going to happen. Odo committed bottom to the wave, so immediately Abba and IgNar back off from Rogue. They get the inhib tower for free.
See, fans at home. Wards save lives. That was beautifully done by Rogue. That whole series of events. Twice, vision is ultimately what kept them from overcommitting to the Baron and falling for the trap that Schalke tried to lay for them. Because Schalke was forced into the river up towards the top side, the only route that they had was to base, allowing Rogue direct access to that mid lane tower and another objective going into their back pockets.
I do want to talk about some of the itemization that's come out because we are approaching late game, and it's the rapid fire cannon for Woolite. We talked about how it's just about the single axe, the single chunk, which means that rapid fire means much more for a champion like Draven than it does for a champion like Lucian.
But also a lot of Zhonya's have come through. Oh, look at IgNar, another flank.
Trick goes in straight onto Woolite. They almost taken down, but he uses the QSS, and the Cullen will not land. Ismael caught up towards the top side of the fight, and he will die. And now Rogue in a 4v5 situation. Abbedagge is going to use the second proc of the perfect execution to escape, and Schalke now step up towards that Baron once again.
So I'm really not sure what happened to Woolite right there, but the ultimate landed on from Trick, and he actually didn't QSS immediately. He flashed, then used the QSS. So Woolite was taken out of the fight immediately. While Odoamne is on the flank, he does not have his ultimate available to them. I don't think he can. IgNar is the scarier one right now because he's the one with CC as Schalke have started off the Baron.
There's a second to take a breath here before the fight starts once again. Abbedagge doesn't have the ult. He was caught. VandeR jumping in with the soul shackles. IgNar goes in, but Woolite gets the black shield immediately, and Woolite will survive for an age in this fight. Ben dives onto the back line, and Rogue take two, and immediately turn their eyes towards the Baron. Instead, they say no. We'll go for IgNar. We'll go for the kills. We'll go for the win. Odo has to run away, and Rogue come out on top in a 4v5.
And VandeR comes up clutch with the binding to save all bindings, shutting down Abbedagge, flashing onto the Shroud to guarantee that ultimate to allow the rest of his team to follow up was monumental. They now have all 5 members alive. They are TPing into the base. 3 members of Schalke are dead. Rogue are going to take to match point.
And so many times we credit Schalke with having excellent team fighting, but Rogue had beat them at their own game. Expertly done.
Odo's almost got ult. He's got flash as well. He's looking to jump in. He gets onto Woolite, and it might not be over yet because Woolite's dead. Rogue and Finn will take the tower. It's on Inspired and Finn to try and do this. Alistar jumping away. The Cullen comes out from Inspired, but Finn's going to go down as well. And you spoke too soon, Vedius. You spoke too soon, Frost, because Schalke are not done yet. Finn's going to go down. He will fall in the midst of the Schalke base as Schalke are fighting for their lives.
And it is just the single standing nexus here for Schalke. They have their top, they have their bottom, but Rogue overreach and lose massively there.
So let's go back to where this all started, and VandeR is the guy to watch. Notice here how he's able to land this binding onto Abbedagge. Abbedagge doesn't choose to use the flash to dodge out away from it, but because he roots him up with the ultimate, that allows Finn to find that execute. With him gone and Upset being forced out of the fight, it allows Rogue to get the cleanup where Kennen can do absolutely nothing. His ultimate was on cooldown. But then Rogue, they go for the base rush. They try to end the game. And while that was happening, they weren't able to do it. Odoamne, with his ultimate, was able to stop them from ending the game. They get themselves the Elder. They secure themselves the Baron. Ladies and gentlemen, this game is not over yet.
That is the Spartan. This is where we hold them. taking another look at that, again, the hero play from Odo, making sure that he gets access into that backline, does the damage to the members that Rogue needed to focus down those towers. Odo is able to hold long enough so multiple members of Schalke are able to respawn and live to fight another day.
And that was where Odoamne tips his hat and says, this will not be the end of this game. So much damage came out from the Kennen. Great execution. Now it is Schalke that have both of the major buffs. There are 2.5 minutes on both of these right now. But notice, I mean, I just came to the realization, like, look at the difference in objectives this game. Rogue have been, like, in full control of the map for the majority of it, and Schalke, they've actually only secured 3 out of towers. So even though they have the Baron and they have the Elder, there's a big question around how much can they actually secure against the likes of a double AD carry.
Rogue now pushed back just a little bit as the Baron buff minions are going to let Schalke open up this base. Rogue, of course, have only taken that mid inhib. They don't have multiple waves of supers pushing in. They went for the win, they went for the Nexus, and Schalke held them off. They made their last stand, and we'll see if Rogue can do the same in defending for these next 2 minutes.
Question is, will Rogue be able to find another fight like they did? Oh no! I never saw that!
Larssen packaged into the fountain!
Oh my word!
That's okay. So we concentrate on the game at hand, but that could have been it. That could have been a rookie in his debut playoffs making the mistake that cost them the game. We'll see if that's the case as Schalke are now knocking on these inhibitor towers.
I love how the casters are having a real emotional moment to something the crowd's like,
I was just like,
yeah, you moron, why did you see?
I followed Larssen from Challenger Series. I watched him play in the UK scene. To see him on the LEC stage is such a delight, and to see him make a mistake like that is heart-wrenching for so many fans of his. And now Schalke on the inhibitor towers trying to take these down. They're chipping at bot, they're chipping in the mid lane, but they haven't broken through just yet.
So regardless of state of the map, the concept remains the same here. If Schalke get the big engage through the flank, through the Alistar, through the Sejuani, it's probably going to look great for them. If Woolite can survive that, if the fight goes longer than, let's say, 10 seconds, I think Rogue have the poke and the ability to clean it out.
honestly, the biggest question for me is how long can the front line of Rogue even survive? Because Inspired and VandeR are what Schalke have to go through. Both of them do have the Zhonyas, but it's about, can Inspired properly use the Kennen ultimate, which has now just disappeared? Because Rogue don't have a huge amount of crowd control in their composition. It's all about VandeR and Inspired buying time for Woolite and Larssen to win. So in terms of ease of execution, Schalke have a much easier teamfight comp. It is very much just roll your face on the R key, and then you'll likely win the fight. But it's all about, from the side of Rogue, how long can they buy time for Woolite to deal enough damage to allow them to come out ahead. And like, you only look at the levels as well. Upset 18, Abbedagge 18, Odoamne 18. Like, only Larssen has hit level 18 on the side of Rogue. So just in terms of raw stats as well, Schalke just in a much better position to find a fight. So Rogue have to just play on the defensive for now.
I think a big issue when we're talking about level is Inspired still running around at level 15 because he had to be grouped up with his team so much, whereas virtually everyone on Schalke, save for Trick, is that level 18. And poor IgNar. Support life.
Yet to see any healing reduction coming out from Larssen or Woolite as well, which means that even if they land some of this poke, Upset has healing in his kit. You've got the Hextech Gunblade giving Abbedagge some of that health back as well. It means that if you land the poke, you have to consistently land it, because otherwise those two key carries on the side of Schalke will just heal it right back up.
And the mental game changers, we kind of have a brief window to talk about just status of this best of 5. Obviously, this team moves to match point, but again, we talked about if you beat Schalke with Draven, do you change up and demand that that ban go through? Or if you're able to get over this hump, it means a world of difference in terms of mental refresh time. So especially with a team like Rogue that has so many rookies on it, this could be the make or break of the series, even if it's not the game that actually clinches the victory for either team.
Could be the make or break of their 2019 as a whole as well. The loser of this is eliminated from Worlds contention, has no chance of running the gauntlet. Origin and Splice will play in the first round of that gauntlet in a couple of weeks' time. But before then, we have this game. We have G2 Fnatic tomorrow. We have Athens on the cards next week.
Okay, Elder Drake spawns in about a minute's time. This is obviously going to be the biggest point of contention. And Rogue right now are focusing on getting mid-prio. But notice, all the wards that are sitting behind them, the pings have even come down from Schalke. This is just a prime opportunity for them to look for a flank. And Rogue actually move up through the top side. Baron also spawns in a minute. They actually spotted out Odoamne. Ooh, if they find that pick, this could be so big for Rogue, but he's going to disengage.
Both these teams coming into the very late game now, the longest game we've had in 46 games in the LEC. All of it on a knife's edge. A single moment could decide it. IgNar going in, but Woolite lands a single axe, and the black shield on Woolite means that IgNar can't find that engage. He still has the flank. Finn trying to chase him down.
But they want to try to force it, which is why IgNar continued to step forward. As soon as that black shield goes down, there's going to be that window while you're waiting for such a critical cooldown where Schalke are going to try to force their chances.
The longest flank in known history.
Woolite gets stunned.
He takes a lot of damage. Woolite down to half HP on the backline, but he's still alive. Abbedagge goes in. Abbedagge goes down. But here comes Odo. He slices through them all. And IgNar's going to chase down Larssen as well. Like Woolite is already done. Larssen tries to flash away, but it's a quadra kill for Odo. It's a quadra kill for Odo. And Schalke win out the decisive fight.
And let's be clear here, that was a 4v5 because IgNar did not get to participate in that fight. He showed up at the very end, but that was entirely done on the back of Odoamne.
IgNar gets to participate now. He stops Finn from getting back to the base. He stops Finn from looking for the back door. And meanwhile, Upset and Trick are pushing into the base. The Nexus towers stand before them, but there's no one left to defend. And it's Odo. It's the Odo story today. The pentakill after his team put their faith in them. Schalke are now one game away from Athens.
Pentakill for Odoamne. The whole game was about Woolite versus Odo. Which one is able to carry harder? We saw the early death cap. We could see what he was trying to do. And in the final fight, he waited for his moment to strike. His Thunderbolt was by far and away super effective, and he ripped through the entire rogue lineup and helped take Schalke to match point and one game away from that spot at Athens.
And that was Odo's first pentakill, so congratulations to him. What a game to make it count.
What a game all round from the Schalke top laner. Has been around the block. It's been there and back again. From World Semi-Finals with H2K to now with Schalke, and showing how strong he can be.
So it's been a hot minute since we've seen a game last this long. Close to 42 minutes, 41 and 39 seconds. Now, here's what I want to talk about. I think that this is going to be the most important game for the best of 5 and will define both these teams' careers for the 2019 season. The reason is when you sit in such a long game, when you are that close to a victory as Rogue and you package into a tower, can you reset mental?
Ugh.
We don't have tape to tell us yes or no. Can Rogue, as very green players, be uplifted by their staff, be uplifted by VandeR, and put up a fight to take us to Game 5, or have Schalke just cruise control, tilted them off the face of the planet, and look to go 3-1?
I mean, already in the series, 4 of the 5 players on Rogue have doubled the amount of playoff games they have played. They do not have the experience, and you have to wonder, as you say, Frost, whether the extra experience that Schalke have grown will mean that they take the win in the end. For now, we're going to finish pontificating. We're going to hand it over towards the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Medic. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say they don't have the experience, so it's over. I would say, well, hey, they've showed many times before that with their backs against the wall, they can win the games they need to game. However, this game is a special kind of tilting game, and I think also on the side of Schalke, you probably have to think that they're getting a lot of energy and momentum out of how that ended.
Especially after they got probably really scared when they lost that Baron fight and they thought the game was over, because before that they'd actually been winning most of the fights in their favor. A lot of it kudos to the Kennen. Like, this really, like the caster said it, and it was actually the Draven versus Kennen show.
It was so exciting to watch. And was it anything else but Kennen versus Draven? Of course, right? But in the team fights, that's all it came down to. Can Kennen get the flank off, and can Draven get his kills? Now we're going to take a look at how the game evolved, because at I have to check my notes. I can't remember, but he cashed in. Draven cashed in and got 1.7 gold, and then the gold was even. And I think then we went into a game state where it was all about those mid-game team fights. This one is so interesting because it looks so good for Schalke, but Woolite gets the triple.
Right, I mean, starting off in this play, Woolite on the far left corner of your screen gets completely zoned away. Abbedagge picks up that first kill. But then Rogue are able to regroup here around Woolite, getting the shutdown, Finn jumping into the backline, trading on Abbedagge, and there's been 0 damage damage going down to Woolite. And this is where I'm calling Odo can come in for the turn. And I really thought this was going to be a one fight for Schalke.
I mean, it almost was right, but Woolite managed to get a bunch of kills. He has Bloodthirster as well at this point, so he can actually lifesteal. Almost gets another one. I think IgNar, if we have to look at the fight from Schalke's side, if IgNar actually stays near the Draven instead of trying to go for the Corki when his team is killing the front line, he can zone Woolite even longer. And then maybe Woolite just ends up kind of backing away from the fight together with the rest of his team, and we don't get this triple. But at that point in the game, we looked at the draft, and we were like, okay, if Rogue have a good early game plan around this bot lane, then they will get really far ahead on Draven, because, I mean, he will win this lane super hard. He will get early turret, and if they get an early kill, it's mega snowball time. They didn't get the early kill. It actually went over to Odoamne instead, and he was kind of the one who kept Schalke in the game for a lot of it.
Absolutely.
We still got the kill on Draven, though.
Yeah.
And the goal just went like straight up. You know, okay, now Woolite, it's your time to shine. You have IH, BT, Hexstring, I believe it was. And there was a lot of fights where I think if the Black Shield is faster, Ender, you kept pointing this out. You kept saying the Black Shield was late, Black Shield was late. If that came in faster, I think Woolite could actually have carried some of these fights.
Yeah, because he has a QSS, he has a Maw of Malmortius, he has the shield. It baffles me as to why the flash was gone every single time Schalke engaged.
I mean, it baffled us too, right? We're calling this out during the game, that when the Black Shield comes in late every time, it means that, you know, he has to burn the QSS and the flash, because Sejuani ult, super oppressive. Kennen ult is going to get a flash pretty much every single time. And I thought this was a game where Draven should have been able to play in these team fights. Yes, it's really hard against all that long range and all that AoE damage, but this is a game that if the timings are correct, he should be able to plant his feet in the ground and turn. And
he could whenever Odoamne didn't have flash. So there were actually good moments. Like, I think it was a super back and forth game where it's one of the first times I get to see Rogue trying to carry through the bot lane, because it's been a lot of actually protecting bot early and then use the bot pressure to then rotate to mid and top. They've been doing against Splice and also earlier here. I think it's great to see them change it up and say, listen, we know that you're going to pick Lucian early. We've already seen it. If you go for Alistar, boom, we got Draven Morgana here. Had they won that game, Draven would have been banned in the next game.
And that's how we get to kind of the next portion, or what we want to talk about, is how this game unfolded was incredible from both sides. Because at a certain moment, Schalke gets a chance to go for the Baron or play it out around the Baron. But what ensues then, we're going to try and give you a visual representation. I'm Rogue. And Ender is Schalke.
We're going to check out the replay first.
Abbedagge, no, you can't, because then Morgana can reveal you, and it's bad.
It's a 5v4 situation too, right? This is where Schalke should be winning the game, but Abbedagge gets chunked out, revealed by the Morgana shackles as well. And this is where Rogue should win the game. Not just win the fight around the Baron, but they get those kills, they chase down the rest of Schalke, and then with an exposed inhibitor already, they run it straight up that middle lane, and then throw it all away.
Yeah,
so
nice that we had that.
So
I'm
here,
Rogue, and you're
exactly.
Schalke.
I'm Abbedagge, so it's like, I'm gonna throw this game.
Oh, hey, Rogue, we got it, but hang on. Here you go. Oh, let's take a look at the next fight, because that's exactly what happens, and this was the best way to represent it. Just kidding. The replay is, of course. But the game was back in Rogue's favor, and all they have to do is run mid and finish it. Now, explain this to me. Why does this happen?
Okay, so thank Mr. Larssen here, because he dives the package underneath the fountain, dies to the laser. And yes, Odo stalls for a long time, but if you have a Corki up that's level 17, I think at this point in the game, you get the kill onto the Kennen, you can probably force the end right there with how chunked Upset is in this fight. It's just honestly inexcusable.
It's just so insane, because if they finish the game here, Schalke are super mad at the fact they actually lost this game, because they felt in control, then Abbedagge got caught, you know, they managed to kill him early, they win that fight. Now Rogue are really mad because they ended up
everybody's
having
mad.
the game actually in the back, and then they don't win it, and we get, hopefully, the last Kennen fight.
And who is the happiest after all this? It is Odoamne, because he thinks, okay, I get one more shot at my Kennen ultimate. I get one more shot, and he just absolutely
Draven got hit there.
Down.
Yeah, I just love the setup here. Yeah, black or late Black Shield as well into the Draven, but then the flash over the wall, the long flank here coming in from Odoamne to pick up the quick triple, and then chase down for the quad. Oh, that's bad flash from Larssen, but that's the quadra kill, and then they're able to chase him down for the penta.
Now I do wonder if you're Rogue, so you get side selection. You've had blue side all day long. I think actually this was a good draft. I felt like if they had a good early game plan around the bot lane, they would actually hard win, the way I looked at it.
They chose blue.
Obviously, the Kennen got away, or he's kind of snowballed out of control top. They do have the option to ban both Kennen and Rumble if they want and just leave open GP, but then they're probably scared of GP impacting the bot lane.
Well, Odoamne was the decider in this one, and as you say, there is so much to think about, and you can only imagine how this man is feeling right now. Invigorated, ready to take it. Because
he looks pumped. Look at him right there,
he
just sitting down and chilling.
Worlds. He wants to do that Kennen in another semi-final of Worlds. Yes, we're going to call back to that. But now it's also up to, I think, Rogue to show us that they're not just those rookies, right? Medic posed the question, do they have enough experience? They do have a unique possibility here to show that that is not tilting them. And they chose blue side. What are we going to see?
I mean, I think that this team has a lot of different options right now. I'm curious to see if the Aatrox pick, first pick, sticks around here. We've seen...
Depends on the bans.
It depends on the bans. If they want to keep those same bans, maybe they hold off on the top lane pick for Finn because he was a non-factor in this game.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess after seeing the Rumble and the Kennen, they might be scared of the Aatrox, which we expect to stay top and not be swapped to mid. Also, like going to second phase, if they do leave the bot lane open like they did here, Draven could just be banned away if Schalke want to avoid the same thing. So it might be hard for them to run the same draft. I really wonder if they will keep the GP ban and look at Kennen Rumble specifically, or if they say, listen, guys, we had everything we needed. We just got to respect the Kennen. Everything else was actually fine. We were hard winning, but it was good. We could win the game.
If Rogue is pushing us to game 5, would you, if you were the coach, play through bottom lane again?
Yes, as long as I actually have a way to defend my top laner. I think that was obviously a big problem. Finn ended up dying a couple of times. I think actually the bot lane has shown over the last couple of games that you can play through them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fine option. I wouldn't write it off the table. I personally want to see more attention on the mid lane. I think that when we have Larssen and Inspired working together, I want a strong early game jungler for Inspired, and I want them to work together to take over the map.
I should also note, only if they can get counter picks for bot lane, because otherwise they're not beating Upset and IgNar.
No, not in a straight 2v2. What a turn of events here so far. Schalke 04 on match point to go to Athens and do or die for Rogue in game 4. A loss would be the end of their 2019 season. Let's see if they can stay alive.
Trick going in the top lane as the slicing Maelstrom comes down. Finn trying to escape, lands the Infernal Chains, but the chase is on. Trick lands the Glacial Prism. Look at the axes the Draven can push forward here. And here goes Trick back in. Odo slices them up. Schalke turning around, but Woolite stands up and he takes them down. And now IgNar will get him in the end. Once again, Abbedagge doesn't have the ult. He was caught. VandeR jumping in with the Soul Shackles. IgNar goes in, but Woolite gets the Black Shield immediately. And Woolite will survive for an age in this fight. Finn dives onto the back line and Rogue take 2. Woolite down to half HP on the back line, but he's still alive. Abbedagge goes in. Abbedagge goes down. But here comes Odo. He slices through them all. And IgNar's going to chase down Larssen as well, like Woolite has already done. Larssen tries to flash away, but it's a quadra kill for Odo. The pentakill after his team put their faith in them. Schalke are now 1 game away from Athens.
This is my creed. The items that make me stronger. The potions that I drink. But all this leveling up means nothing if I don't level up myself. It's the healthy potions I drink in real life that make me stronger. You are your most important champion. To play like a pro, eat like a pro.
so never ever ever gonna let you go. Once I get my hands